So Jay Ziebart, her business is Plant-Based for Life. She's a speaker, a health educator, and a transition specialist. She recently, well, where I had met her, I think a number of us got to meet her when she was at Dignity Health, working within our health system as an education specialist and teaching classes. And she had a wildly popular, plant-based series. She's now left to pursue her passion full time. Her background is in health science as well as special certifications to teach diabetes and chronic disease. And her passion is to reduce suffering by teaching people how to take back their health with nutrition. So come on up, Jay.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. One second. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you. So this has been amazing, hasn't it? I've loved listening to all of the presenters, and there's so much where I was going yes and clapping my hands, and you guys can't even hear me doing that. So very, very excited about the information that's been shared so far. Let me just, because I have a slightly different perspective than a lot of our speakers, let me just share my perspective. I have absolutely loved everything that has been shared, and I just want to thank all of our speakers so far that have spoken, that have shared their knowledge with us, just really valuable information. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So I want you to eat your way to your best you. Doesn't that sound like fun? Anytime where I can eat good food, I'm a happy girl. So my story. Back in the day, I was a lifetime dieter. Basically started dieting at about 11 years old, did almost a quarter century of that. I know a lot of us on here can probably relate to that story. What did I do? I lost a lot of weight. And then what did I do? I put it all back on again. So the most interesting thing about the story is where I ended up. So I found myself at the doctor's office. Again, a lot of times where this story begins. The doctor, actually the nurse, puts you on the scale and then puts a blood pressure cuff on you. And this time they called the doctor over right away. I have to tell you, that is not a good sign. Not a good sign. My doctor came over and she took my blood pressure again. She took me to a room, took it twice more, and then she gave me a look. And I know some of us have had the misfortune of seeing this look on our doctor's face. And I know that some of the doctors here have had the misfortune of having to deliver this kind of news. My doctor said, your blood pressure is at stroke level. I was 35 years old, 35. Now, the worst part, well, the diagnosis was pretty traumatic, I have to tell you. But the worst part is I thought I ate healthy. I thought my diet was excellent. I knew I had weight to lose. I mean, that is something I just shared with you. I had struggled with my whole life, basically. But I thought I ate fairly healthy. I was following all the latest recommendations, right? And, a lot of what we're hearing today is clearing up the confusion around that. And I hear that phrase all the time. I eat fairly healthy, so what's the problem? I eat fairly healthy. Why is this happening? And so what I did after floundering for a little bit is I went directly to the science, because I was tired of people's opinions of what I should be doing. I wanted to know, what does the data say? And so when I did that, I discovered something that frankly shocked me, because it wasn't very similar to what has been recommended. So I really wanted to continue to be here. So I went ahead and applied it, and I applied it immediately. I was in crisis at 35 years old. Here are a few of my befores. Now, I don't do before and afters. I do before and durings, because this is something you want to be able to sustain forever. We don't want to go back on the roller coaster. You want to be able to make changes that you can sustain. And that's one of the ways that I help people. But the first person I helped was me. So you can see here, swollen, red, exhausted. Frankly, I look like I'm in pain in these photos. I thought I felt pretty healthy in these situations as well, even though I was overweight. We get used to it. It's the strangest thing. We don't even realize how much pain we're in. We don't even realize how much better our lives can be. So before we go to the next slide, I just want you to notice something. Look at my smiles in these pictures. And look at my smiles in these ones. Now, I know that change is hard and it requires a little bit of discomfort and it's challenging and we have to work at it. But look at the joy in my face here. Even this one here where I'm all sweaty after workout, pure joy because I have my health back. You know, people think, well, I don't want to change. I won't be happy, you know, eating healthy food. I'm happy eating, you know, food that's not good for my body. But really think about it. Is that true? Is that really true? Do I look happy here? In these photos, I'm working at it and I am full of joy. So some of the things that I experienced was a dramatic reduction in my blood pressure. I was taken off of my medication within a few months from stroke level to healthy range, no medication within a few months. Now, I had spent almost a quarter century, you know, battling that weight monster, and the weight, the first 50 pounds just sort of melted off. I wasn't doing anything different except what I ate. Since then, I continue to improve my entire holistic health. But back then, I just changed my food and got off of my medication, maintaining a healthy range of blood pressure, lost a bunch of weight. I had chronic stomach issues my whole life, and they were cleared up within a few weeks. So those of you fellow sufferers out there, you know what a quality of life issue bump that could be for you. Within about 4 days, the first 3 days I felt a little bit yucky as I was transitioning, but by day 4, I was bouncing off the walls with energy. Just within 4 days, 4 little days. You know, once you make some of these significant changes, you can see dramatic results. Now, it depends where you start, but you can. And I encourage you to do that favor for yourself. A couple other things, clear mind, my mind fog went away. I went back to school almost immediately. Cycle issues gone for those ladies out there. Clear skin, I had terrible acne on my back, completely cleared up. The crux of it is I became a joyful, energized person, and I stopped battling my body. I found peace with my body. How good does that sound? I got to tell you, it feels pretty good, and I want that for all of you. So what is whole food plant-based? Anything edible that grows from the ground. Dr. Watley was talking about this. You know, people think, oh, that's so restrictive. But if you think about it, well, if in my own personal experience, my diet has expanded like in a crazy way. We have tens of thousands of different kinds of plants that we can eat. So these include fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, but just a lot of different kinds of variety. You can see this picture right here is a pizza. I love this pizza and I eat it, you know, probably every few weeks. It is lovely, full of nutrition and also full of satisfaction, full of the joy of eating, which shouldn't go away. That should be part of your journey toward health. Okay, somebody asked this in the chat, and this is something that I get asked all the time. What is the difference between vegan and plant-based? So veganism is a compassionate stance. So it's all about protecting our animal friends. So plant-based is all 100% about health. So is all vegan food plant-based? No, not even all plant-based foods. Foods that are marketed as plant-based are truly whole food plant-based. We got to be really careful about that. Follow Dr. Stevens' recommendations, you know, with those ingredients especially, but all the rest of it as well. Really good advice there. So are all plant-based foods vegan? Yes, that's just a happy accident because plant-based foods do not contain any animals. So the difference, vegan, compassionate stance, plant-based, all about the health. Oreo cookies are vegan. That's obviously not a health food, right? So common questions. Now, we've talked a little bit about protein. Some of the other speakers have. Most people, the most common question they get is, what do you do for your protein? And we have learned that quite easily covered. You'll see a lot of science out there that shows vegans really don't have any trouble getting their protein if they're eating a healthful diet. It's not a problem. My most common question is, what do you eat? People think, oh, you just eat salads all day long. I would not put up with that, I have to tell you. So no, you do not just eat salads all day long, although I highly encourage you to eat some salads. Those greens are fantastic for you. What I encourage is that you take what you already eat and upgrade it. What do I mean by that? Well, here we have, some tortillas. One of my favorite upgraded tortilla recipes is lentil flatbread. It's just soaked red lentils, blended and, cooked like a crepe. High protein, high nutrient density, lovely substitution or upgrade for those tortillas. This over here on the left is chocolate hummus. Anybody want to say yes, please? If you've provided your address to us, we will be sending out some physical information, and that recipe will be in there. You're welcome. This over here on the right, I was an ice cream fiend. Absolutely love the ice cream. And I was delighted to discover that nice cream is awesome. Gloriously creamy, sweet, perfect. That's just frozen bananas blended. That's it. I know it sounds crazy, but it's absolutely beautiful. So just take what you already eat, the things you already enjoy, and upgrade those ingredients. Let me give you some examples. So if we want to swap out our ground beef, lentils are a beautiful swap. Walnuts are excellent. Walnuts are also high in those omega-3s, so that's one of the best nuts to eat. I would say flax. Ground flax is one of my favorite omega-3 sources, but walnuts have a really lovely ratio. And if you're interested in that, come to classes and you'll learn more about that. But walnuts are one of the best nuts. Or you can use any other kind of bean for that ground beef. That is an excellent substitution. Shredded chicken or pork. You want to make a pulled pork sandwich? Green jackfruit, simmered, you have to flavor these things, simmered in some delicious sauce is an excellent sub for shredded chicken or pork. Dairy milk, okay. If you have been to a grocery store lately, you know how many different varieties of plant milk there are out there. Just watch those ingredients like Dr. Stevens shared with you. Cheese. Cheese is a bit of a tough one, and there's reasons behind that. Casomorphins, look it up. Cheese is really, really tough, but it's also really bad for us. It's one of our worst saturated fat offenders. So I highly, on so much sodium, highly recommend that you try and find a good swap for that cheese. So plant-based cheeses or sauces. Now, what I mean by that is not what the store says are plant-based cheeses. I'm talking about plant-based cheeses and sauces that you make yourself or that you find that have really good ingredients. They're more and more coming out all the time, so just keep an eye out. Or back when I transitioned, there were no delicious plant-based cheeses. And so I just use avocado. Lovely stuff for cheese. White flours, any kind of white flour product. Just swap it out for something that's whole grain, whole bean. There's so many different kinds of flours, so many different kinds of whole grains out there. It's not just about brown rice. There's a lot of different whole grains out there that you can use. Now, a couple of our speakers have talked about sweeteners, and this is a question I get all the time. What I highly recommend is, I am a sweets girl. I love the sweets. And so what do I do? How do I keep that in my life? One word, dates. Now, there's a variety of different kinds of dates. So if you've tried medjool dates, which are the most common, there are other ones out there that taste less fruity and are more caramelly or honey tasting. They're lovely. Why are these better? Why are dates or bananas or something like that better processed sweetener than processed sweeteners? Because they have their fiber. You've heard this word over and over and over and over again today. The fiber is key. Most people in America are getting less than half the amount of fiber they should be getting, minimum. More is better. Get that fiber in there. Okay, transition styles. This is something that is really the crux of what I help people with. Finding your path. Cookie cutter programs do not work for everybody. We need to figure out what is going to work for you. I went all in, but then continued to evolve after that. So that is a strategy, but what works most for most people is the slow and steady, one step at a time strategy. Now, if you have an underlying condition or you have something else going on, talk to your doctor, but also you might have to go a little bit faster. So this is something you need to work with a healthcare professional though, because we don't want you to become over medicated. So one of my favorite ones to teach, because it's really a crowd pleaser, is the crowding method. So what do I mean by crowding? So, I get people occasionally who are like, I'm not changing one more thing. I'm not getting rid of one. Okay, that's fine. This is your journey. This is your journey. What do I recommend? Add more. How does that sound? Add more. Get those greens in, get that extra fiber in, eat those jewel tones, eat the rainbow, like Dr. Watley Dustin said, get all of that good nutrition in your body, and it will naturally crowd out some of the harmful stuff. And as you start to feel better, it becomes a rolling stone. Keep doing it. So for those of us that like a checklist, there's a couple of different options out there that I recommend. The Dr. Furman's G-Bombs. So what does that stand for? So these are the things we want to get in on a daily. And again, that kind of applies to that crowding method as well. You get in these good things and it crowds out some of the rest. And getting in these good things every day is key to helping our bodies be nourished really well, to function really well, and to heal, because that's what we need to do. So G-Bombs, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. So those are Dr. Furman's, core things that he recommends you get every day. The Daily Dozen is Dr. Greger's list, and he has a free app that you can actually download and use. Lovely. It also has his tweaks for weight loss on there, on that free app. So very, very fun, to explore and see if you're getting in those things he recommends. Very, very science-based. Lovely. So there's one thing that can help some people, but you've already heard from our previous speakers that these foods are not ideal. I mostly recommend this one for cheese. I said before, cheese is a tough one for people. Is using a vegan but not entirely whole food plant-based food as a transition food. Now, we don't want to stay there. Those are not healthy foods, but they can help us get past that hurdle. Temporarily use those foods to get past that particular hurdle. Use them as a little crutch until you can get into those plant-based cheeses that you make for yourself, or find some really good ones. The whole idea here is to find your path and to go at your own pace, play to your own strengths. Progress is success. If you are moving forward, if your health is improving, if you're healing, if you're doing well, you are succeeding. Doesn't matter how slow that's happening. Just keep going on your path, and success breeds more success. So I just want to touch on this little bit of weight loss. So calorie density is kind of like the magic of plant-based eating. Now, it's the reason why those first 50 pounds just sort of melted off is because plant-based foods are, for the most part, naturally low calorie density and high nutrient density. So those nutrients are what we need for our bodies, our brains, everything to function properly and to heal. And you'll see in this graphic here that oil gives us no feeling of fullness in our stomach. And so that oil is a really easy one to get rid of. Just takes a little bit of practice in your cooking. Of course, beef is, again, a lot of calories for just a little bit of space taken up. You fill your stomach with veggies, all kinds of high fiber foods, and those will activate those stretch receptors and make you feel satisfied and happy with all those beautiful, healthful carbohydrates in there. So I just want to touch briefly on some keys to success. Of course, we go into more detail, when we're working together, but you got to know your whys. Why are you doing this? Why? If you do not have some solid, powerful whys that bring a visualization to your mind, whys that create a picture in your head that is really touches your emotions, that can be a stumbling stone. If we have some very solid, powerful whys that we can go back to when we're struggling, this is a key way to keep us moving forward. Track your progress. It doesn't have to mean that you write down all your foods every day, although that's a great way to keep track of what you're doing. But keeping track of your blood work, keeping track of, how your body is improving, those biomarkers, your blood pressure, cholesterol, all that kind of stuff. Keep track of that so you can see how you're progressing, and that keeps us motivated and keeps us moving forward as well. Create automaticity. What do I mean by that? I mean, right now you could go to the grocery store blindfolded and buy everything you usually buy, right? So we want to get to the place where you can do that, and everything that you buy is beautiful and glorious and healthful for our bodies. Plan ahead and be realistic. Those are obvious, but sometimes we can, want that quick fix, or we can compare ourselves to others and we can get tangled up in that. Make sure to have a plan and make sure to play to your strengths, know your own challenges, and move forward with what's appropriate and what works for you. Mindset. It's all about what you believe about yourself. Really, it is. If you don't think you can do it, then you can't. If you think you can't, you're absolutely correct. But the good news is, if you think you can, you're absolutely right as well. So get that mindset. You can do this. I did it after struggling for who knows how long, forever, it felt like. I did it. I have helped a lot of people. I know a lot of people all have different kinds of struggles. You can do this. You've seen a lot of speakers today. We have, more coming. I just want you to know that we care about you. All of us do. We wouldn't be donating our time today if we didn't. We wouldn't be sharing this information. We wouldn't be putting in this work to share this information with you if we didn't. Realize your health potential. You have so much more power than you think, and so much more power than we've been led to believe. Take it one step at a time and ask for help if you need it. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Anytime. I'm happy to answer questions. So how about right now?
Thank you, Jay. That was awesome too. Okay, first question. If the whole food plant-based diet is evidence-based and clearly the most healthy, why don't the dietary recommendations reflect these recommendations?
That is an excellent question. This is a multifold answer here. So part of the issue is, and I'm not going to get into all of this, but part of the issue is that our recommendations are not just motivated by science. So the general recommendations that we're giving are not, those recommendations are not solely science-based. The other thing is that we all have bias. We're all human, right? We all have, we've all grown up with social conditioning, right? We've been conditioned since we were little. This is what you believe. This is what's good for you. This is what we should be doing. And what we're discovering is that without all of the information, you can't make a good decision. So that's why we're here. We're trying to provide you with the good information so you can make the best decisions for your body. The other thing is bias in terms of what your healthcare professional, whoever that happens to be, is willing to do for themselves. We tend to adjust our recommendations based on our own lives and based on what we're willing to do. So what we need to do is be our own best advocate, or find some great advocates like we have in this room today. Be your own best advocate though. Do your own research, learn for yourself, go directly to the science. That is the best strategy.
Thanks. Yeah, it's so true. There's so much data about if physicians exercise, they recommend exercise more often. If physicians have a healthful diet, they recommend dietary change more often. Multiple studies showing. A question, any suggestion about habits for shopping for produce during the time of the virus?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So of course, the best produce is the one that's grown locally. So local produce has more nourishment. It's traveled shorter distance, obviously, and it's not picked as soon so that it can travel. But if we're trying to protect ourselves here, then we do have to be careful. So making sure to mask up, wash your hands, keep distance. And if you really want to go to the next level with protecting yourself, try and find a delivery service. That's one of the strategies that I use. Now, in terms of what you actually buy that rainbow, lots of greens.
Nice. We have a question about stir fry made for dinner last night. I did and do stir fry with olive oil. Plus, I put in ground turkey because they don't eat red meat. Are these problems?
So it's really important for you to make that decision for yourself. We've shared a lot of information here today. And so I think really, you know, the answer to the question. The question is, are these things helpful? Are these the most helpful? Now, anytime anybody asks me, I'm going to tell you ideal. Do you have to be perfect? No, there's no such thing as perfect. That does not exist. Do what works for you. Do your best, the best decision in every moment. That's all we can do.
Wonderful. One more here. What about GMOs and organic?
Oh, interesting, interesting. Okay, so you know, the generic topic of GMOs is you can't really go by that. You have to go by the individual, what has been modified, how has it been modified. So you really need to do your research on each of those genetic modifications and decide if that's something that you would want to, you know, incorporate into your body. Now, if something is certified organic, it's got to be certified in the United States, then that is automatically GMO free. Let me just step back. Anytime I make a recommendation, it's always science-based. But let me just say, from a personal standpoint, there are a few things that I make sure I buy organic, or corn and soy, and anything where you are eating the whole thing. So if something has a peel, like a banana or a watermelon, those are safer, and you can go conventional with those. Let me just say though, you know, people will say, well, I can't afford organic. A conventionally grown apple is still 1,000,000 times better than a donut. So those conventionally grown fruits and vegetables still have plenty of nourishment in them. They're still awesome. So again, I sound like a broken record. Do the best you can in every moment. That's all we can do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jay.